Hi everyone, we're going to get started in a few minutes, so if you want to take your seats, now is a really great time to do that. Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here today. My name is Zoe and I'm a senior at Castellea High School and a previous spring intern for Assemblymember Berman. You are all here today because you're all engaged youth in your community and you're ready to take action. So what can youth actually do to make a difference? It all starts with being politically engaged and building your own perspective on issues that shape our world, locally, statewide, and nationally. Being informed helps you ask bold questions, have meaningful conversations, and take action. Knowledge is the starting point for meaningful conversations. It can be a powerful tool, powerful enough to inspire new legislation. Sometimes, all it takes is a conversation with an elected official. Stories are one of the most powerful tools we have. They captivate our imagination and evoke emotion in ways that statistics and data cannot do alone. So, here's a story for you all. 16 Montana youth, ages 7 to 22, sued the state arguing that pro-fossil fuel policies violated their constitutional right to a clean and healthy environment. In 2023, a Montana trial ruled for the plaintiffs and struck down parts of state law that blocked consideration of greenhouse gas effects. And the Supreme Court, overall, they ruled for the plaintiffs and affirmed the ruling. Yes. The case is widely regarded as a landmark youth-led victory with immediate policy implications for how state agencies should consider climate impacts. You're here today not just because someone made you come, but because you actually want to be here. And that already makes you part of the change. But how else can you make a difference? One of the most powerful ways to get involved is through government. And that might sound really intimidating, especially for those of us who are under 18 years old. But sometimes all it can start is with a simple internship. During my time with Assemblymember Berman's office this spring, I was able to take phone calls with constituents, research legislation, and really learn the ins and outs of how policy is shaped. And this summer, I was happily invited back to take a tour of the state capitol building and watch an assembly meeting in session. Beyond the assembly, I have volunteered for nonprofits that tackle the issues I deeply care about, like the environment and access to reproductive health care. I've started clubs at my school that tackle these issues as well. I have written postcards to other states urging people in them to vote for representatives that share my vision for change. I have also raised money through a lemonade stand for presidential campaigns. To make a difference in your community and beyond, you too can start off with the same simple ingredients: passion, voice, awareness, and sometimes even lemons. I'm telling you this because change often starts out small, and it's your job to grow that into something bigger. Another great way to take action is by connecting with the organizations here today. After the panel, I urge you all to walk around and see what's going on in your communities. You've already shown up, and now it's time to take it to the next step. Now, I am truly honored to introduce Assemblymember Berman to discuss legislative updates. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. How's everyone doing? Good. Hey, my name is Mark Berman. I'm the State Assembly member for the 23rd Assembly District. And for those who don't know, the 23rd Assembly District includes Palo Alto, where we are now, but goes all the way up to Pacifica, up in the northwest, all of the San Mateo County coast, so Pacifica through Half Moon Bay, down to Pescadero and the Santa Cruz County border, comes over the hill to Woodside, Atherton, Portola Valley, most of Menlo Park, and then drops down into Santa Clara County, Palo Alto, Mountain View, Los Altos Hills, and then drops down to Campbell, a little bit of West San Jose, and Saratoga. So it's a really diverse district. The district changed a lot about 2.5 years ago. I represented a different district for my first 6 years in office. And then every 10 years, we do redistricting, or these days, more than every 10 years, we do redistricting. And so we had the census, and we redrew the maps, and the community changed a little bit. I used to represent East Palo Alto, East Menlo Park, North Fair Oaks, which is unincorporated San Mateo County. I also used to represent the city of Sunnyvale, but those communities were put into different districts, and I picked up other communities. And so it's been really just an honor and a privilege to represent first the 24th Assembly District and now the 23rd Assembly District in the California State Assembly for the last 8.5 years. Let me check my talking points before I inevitably go far off script. But I really also want to thank Zoe for that amazing introduction, and also for being an intern in my office. And what she said is so true. The first thing that I did politically was in between my freshman and sophomore years of college, when I interned for then Congresswoman Anna Eshoo in her district office, which was just a couple of blocks from here. And that led to me getting more into politics, working on campaigns the summer after my sophomore year, and sort of started a career that I didn't even really know that much about, that led to me being here today. So it all starts with an internship. The interns are so important. I'm going to go off script really early. One of my favorite bills, people ask me, I've probably introduced 200 bills in my 9 years in the State Assembly, and people say, what's your favorite bill? And my favorite bill is actually a bill that was not successful in the end. It was successful at a macro level, but not at the micro, that bill level. And it was an idea that I got from an intern back in 2018, I think. And I had an intern in the office who was going to Foothill Community College. Who here is going to community college? Any community college students? All right. I know we got the West Valley folks in the back. And so she was going to Foothill, and a friend of hers was homeless. A friend of her and classmate of hers at Foothill was homeless, and her friend was sleeping in their car. But they could not sleep in their car on campus. And for those of you who have been to our community college, our amazing, beautiful community college campuses, they have a lot of parking lots. And those are safe spaces for people to sleep. But this student wasn't able to sleep in their car on campus. And so I introduced a bill. I'm going to make this long story as short as possible. But introduced a bill to let homeless community college students sleep in their cars on campus. Because I learned, and it shocked me, that 19% of California's community college students had experienced some period of homelessness in the year before this survey was done, back in 2019. It's only gotten worse since then. And I heard from students all across the state who are experiencing homelessness or housing instability. And so I introduced this bill. It got way more attention than I ever could have imagined. I thought this was just a righteous cause. Sure, I'll introduce it to see what we can do. It ended up getting 2 LA Times editorials. It raised a ton of awareness around how big of a crisis we had, how big of an affordability crisis and a living crisis we had in our community college system with our over 2 million community college students. 19% had experienced homelessness. Over 50% had experienced food insecurity. And so even though the bill wasn't successful in the end, I was able to come back 2 years later when we were in a better financial situation and get $30 million in the California state budget every year. And we actually have increased it to $40 million every year to hire a basic needs coordinator on every community college campus in California, all 115 or 16 community college campuses, and establish a physical basic needs center, a physical place that is a food pantry, a physical place that has staff who can help the students get connected to different government services that are available to them. That all started from an intern. That whole thing and that whole passion started from an intern. So, you know, anytime you think about it, if you want to become an intern, apply and do it, because your perspective really matters. And that sort of goes to the general purpose of today's event, which is for the youth in the room, your perspective really matters. Your experience really matters. And I know we do community coffees. I try to do a community coffee in every city in my district once every 2 years, but those are often during the school day. Usually at 8 a.m. And obviously youth aren't going to be able to go to those. And so we, a long time ago, decided every year that we want to have a youth town hall. And to talk a little bit and to listen a lot about what matters to youth, about what youth are concerned about, and about how I, as you were, your assembly member, whether or not you can vote for me or not, I'm your assembly member, how I can help make your life and hopefully your future a little bit better. Last year, we introduced the youth panel as an idea for this event. So that, like I said, so it wasn't just me talking, but it was really youth having a chance to talk about what's going on in their lives, youth having a chance to ask those youth questions, and me and the other adults in the room having the opportunity to listen to those youth. And then think about what ways that we can make their future and their lives better. So I'm really looking forward to the panel that we're going to be having in a couple of minutes. But before we get into that, who knows what an assembly member is? I won't call on you. This isn't. I got some young people who know. All right. A lot of people ask me, what do I assemble? When I tell them that I'm an assembly member, and I assemble laws, right? You've got at the federal level, you've got the United States Congress, you've got the House of Representatives, you've got the U.S. Senate, and you've got the president. At the state level, for state laws, we've got the governor, we've got the state assembly, and we've got the state senate. So who knows how many state assembly members there are? Now I will call on somebody if they raise their hand. Anybody? How many assembly members? Over here? Yes. 500. That's close to what we have in terms of Congress members, but we've got fewer, where it's 435. But we've got fewer assembly members. Any other guesses? This is like a civics lesson. It's fun. I'm a professor. This is great. It's a future career. I do get termed out in 3.5 years, and I'll have to find a real job. We have, yes, 41, not quite. That is close to how many state senators we have. We have 40 state senators, but we have 80 state assembly members. So I'm one of 80 in the state assembly. And how many people do we have in California? Approximately. A little higher, but 39 million. Exactly. So I'm going to round up to 40 for ease of the math. So every assembly member represents 500,000 people. Yes? Those are synonymous. They're kind of interchangeable. Yes. So technically my title is not representative, but Congress members are representatives. Exactly. So like I was mentioning, every assembly member represents about 500,000 people, and a lot of those districts are very diverse, right? I talked a little bit ago about all the different communities that I represent, from Pacifica to Saratoga to San Jose. And my constituents in all those communities have different needs, have different things that they care about, and that's kind of part of the fun. Especially my first 6 years in the assembly, when I represented East Palo Alto and I represented Atherton. Right? You can't find more disparate communities, I don't think, in the country so close to each other than those two. But that also, and then I still also had Half Moon Bay. And so practically every bill that came across my desk, no matter what issue it was, impacted some of my constituents. And that makes the job, frankly, just a lot of fun. It makes it very meaningful. Let me skip ahead a little bit. I know I talked a little bit about education. I've over the 200 bills I've introduced, I've probably introduced a bill in every space. but there are two areas that I focus a lot on. The first is education. And the second is elections, and I'll get to elections in a minute. But in education, when I got elected to the Assembly, I asked the Speaker of the Assembly. They make the assignments to all the different policy committees. And I said, hey, will you appoint me to the Higher Education Committee? And the Speaker at that time, Anthony Rendon, said no. And I love Anthony, love Speaker Rendon. You know, he can only, the committees are only so big. And so I created my own committee. I created a select committee on California's 1960 Master Plan for Higher Education in California. Who's heard of the 1960 Master Plan for Higher Education in California? I bet. So, as a community college professor. And so, the 1960 Master Plan was a plan that was created in 1960 that determined the roles of California's higher education systems, our community college system, our CSU system, and our UC system, and how they would educate California's youth. And how they would create the future workers and economy that we needed in California. But as you can imagine, between 1960 and me getting elected to the Assembly in 2016, a lot had changed. But there hadn't really been a conversation, a holistic conversation around California's policies around higher education and the purposes of the community college system versus the CSU system versus the UC system, and how many students today, very different from 1960, how many students today at some point in their higher education journey go to all three systems. Or if they go to community college, they go to multiple community colleges. And how can we create policies that make it as seamless as possible for those students, for California students, to get that education that they want, whether it's an associate's degree or a certificate or a bachelor's degree or a grad degree, and then get into the workforce and start making money and start paying taxes. Because government needs taxes. And so we need workers who make money. It's all a very virtuous kind of cycle. And so I created this select committee, and that led to a lot of the policies that I have been successful at becoming law in the higher education space. I talked a little bit about the basic needs issues, but also about just making it easier for students who here, so there's a show of hands earlier about community college students. So of all the community college students here, who wants to transfer to a four-year school? A lot. I got a bunch in the back. I got some throughout here. Not everybody, and that's great. But a lot of folks do. A lot of people who go to community college do want to transfer to a four-year school. But our transfer rates, especially at 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, are very low in California. And so we looked at what are some of these barriers, including the complicated nature of going to multiple community colleges through your journey, having classes that all have different course numbering, schematics and systems. How can we make it easier for students when they start at community college to understand that there's this thing called an associate's degree for transfer? It was created originally by then State Senator Alex Padilla, who's now U.S. Senator Alex Padilla, and has been very successful, but not widely utilized. So how do we get more students on that pathway? And we've been really successful at a lot of those efforts. Then after that, I pivoted to K through 12 education a little bit. Because I was seeing things, you know, I first got interested in government because I grew up here in Palo Alto. I actually served on the Palo Alto City Council for 4 years, from 2012 to 2016. But growing up in Palo Alto, I saw the dramatic disparities between the opportunities that I was getting in Palo Alto and the opportunities that a lot of my friends and soccer teammates were getting who were growing up in other communities around here. And that's, to me, totally unfair. We can't guarantee equality of result, but we should at least, in every community in California and America, have equality of opportunity. Every young person should be able to go to a school and get a good education, grow up in a community that's safe, be able to have access to health care, be able to have access to healthy foods. And we didn't necessarily have that when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, and we still don't. It's going to be a constant pursuit. But I also see that in the education realm. Today, in 2025, more than 40% of California's high school students go to schools that don't even offer computer science. That don't even offer computer science. In California in 2025. Over 30 other states across the country have already accomplished this. 30 states across, I think it's 32, 33, it goes up every couple of months, have a requirement that every high school at least offer computer science. Of the high school students here, does your school offer computer science? Yeah? Let me ask, does any of your schools not offer computer science? Because if so, I want to know, and I'm going to go talk to some people. And we have that in Silicon Valley, but we don't even have it in all of Silicon Valley. There are a lot of communities in Silicon Valley that don't. But in other parts of the state, the Central Valley, Northern California, Northern California, we think we're Northern, we're not Northern. The Inland Empire, there are a lot of schools that don't even offer computer science in 2025. And so I introduced a bill 2 years ago to require that every high school in California at least offer computer science. And we've been unsuccessful. That bill's died 2 years in a row, because of concerns about cost, because of concerns about ability to get the teachers, because of concerns about all of these things that South Carolina and Tennessee and Nebraska can handle, but California can't. And so this year, I've introduced I've found some philanthropic partners that are going to fund a pilot project to go into schools across California. I'm not sure exactly how many schools, just to prove this concept and to get data from that program to show what a big difference it has for students and their ability to spark that interest in computer science or technology and then go on and get better jobs. Because I've gone way off script, Ruby gave me the 2-minute warning. Let me flip through here. I want to just quickly talk about elections. Who here, youth, not adults, have heard about some of the redistricting conversations that have been happening across the country, really, over the past couple of weeks. So we just had a very busy week in the legislature. I mentioned earlier that education and elections were two things I've focused a lot on. I chaired the elections committee in the Assembly for my first 5 years in the Assembly. I introduced the bill to make California a permanent vote-by-mail state. I introduced the bill to require that we have a ballot drop box on every CSU campus across California to make it easy for our students to vote. And it requires that every CSU campus have a drop box. It requests that every UC campus have a drop box. The University of California system, the UC system, actually has statutory autonomy. We can't make them do things, but we can request it, and we can sort of let them know that they won't get funding if they don't do it. So they've done it, which is very nice of them. I've tried to make it as easy as possible for people. I don't care your political party. I don't care if you're voting for me or voting for my opponent. I want you to vote. I want you to participate in our democracy, because if we get 100, the goal for me is, I'm going to wrap this up in 30 seconds, but this year, California, in response to some actions that elected officials in other states, in particular Texas, are taking, we've decided that we're going to have a mid-census redistricting of our congressional districts, because we feel like elected officials in other states are trying to rig the system to guarantee that they stay in power. And if they want to do that for their state legislature, fine. Because their state legislature doesn't vote on things that impact my constituents. But when they're doing that for the federal government, for Congress, and for people who are making decisions that impact my constituents, for people who are making decisions that tear away health care for 3.5 million Californians, that are making decisions to tear away food assistance from hundreds of thousands of Californians, that are making decisions to terrorize communities in California, terrorize our workers, weaken our economy, then I care. And so that's why California, led by Governor Newsom, decided to step up and say, hey, if Texas moves forward with their partisan gerrymandering, California is going to respond in kind. And I've said this, and it's been quoted a lot, that we don't want this fight, that we didn't choose this fight. But when the fate of our democracy is literally on the line, we cannot and will not run away from this fight. And so that's why... Thank you. So that's why we made the decision to pass a constitutional amendment. It's going to go on the ballot. And that's the difference, is that in California, it's the voters that are going to have the power, and the voters that are going to decide whether or not we do this. And so it's going to go on the ballot on November 4th, and everyone here will get a chance to decide, well, if you're 18, we'll get a chance to decide whether or not you want this to happen. I saw a question. We're going to do Q&A in a little bit. I want to start the panel. Oh, and I have been negligent in my duties of recognizing amazing local elected officials that we have here today. I was talking a lot about community college. I want to recognize Laura Cassis on the Foothill De Anza Community College Board. I want to recognize Ann Kempner on the West Valley Mission Community College Board. I want to recognize my city council member from the city of Menlo Park, Jeff Schmidt. Jeff was here earlier. Maybe he took off. Jeff, raise your hand if you're here. I don't see you. Get a shout out anyways. And then from the Palo Alto City Council, we've got Julie Lithcott-Hames. Maybe she was here earlier. And then I do see Sergio Lopez, the mayor of Campbell, who came by. Thank you, sir. Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Lopez. Great to see you. Thanks for coming up from Campbell for this to listen to the youth, which you're not that far from. Did I miss any other elected officials? Your local elected officials, by the way, hardest job in politics. Because it's practically entirely voluntary. Maybe they get a little stipend to pay for the coffee at all the meetings they do. You're the closest to your community. People see you out everywhere. And it's just such important work. So very grateful to all the local elected officials who are here. So I'm now going to, am I introducing? Remind me. I got to find my talking points, Ruby. Am I introducing the panel? Perfect. Awesome. So, the moment you've all been waiting for. The youth. The technology up here is a lot better than it was 8.5 years ago. So I think, all right, I'm going to let Zoe kick it off.
Okay, so what inspired you to get involved in your community, and what is the most pressing issue for youth in our community today?
And maybe when you answer that, also introduce yourself and tell a little bit about all the amazing stuff you've been doing.
Hello, everyone. My name is Priscilla. I am a former ASG president at West Valley Mission Community College.
And what does ASG stand for? I've learned that folks don't know all the acronyms that we speak in.
It's the Associated Student Government. Yes. Right now, I am an undergraduate in political science and public policy at Stanford University. Thank you. Thank you.
They never let me in. And I tried 3 times, so congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Thank you. My first quarter will start in September. Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think that to answer this question, I need to just talk a little bit about myself. I am an immigrant and first-generation college student. I came to this country in 2018 with my immediate family, and I was doing what the majority of immigrants do. I was cleaning houses, working in restaurants, and everything. So I decided to study just to get a GED. So I always say I don't know. I am at Stanford now, but I just want a GED. But what inspired me was the lack of representation in student government. The majority of students are younger. I am an older student. I have different needs. And when I started in community college, I was at the night. And I noticed that there is no that much access to older students, in terms of resources, food, and everything. So that was, I was like, okay, I need to get engaged in the student government because I know that I can actually have a voice there and show my needs that sometimes is not addressed. I think that for today, going to the second part of the question, for today, one of the biggest issues, I think, is the lack of institutional trust. Because of social media, I conducted a survey at my community college that I took 400 people answered, and the students, they reported that they do take social media as their primary place to get information about news. And we know that the information in the news are a lot of times not accurate. And they reported that they don't know how to fact check. So that was, I think that for me, one of the biggest issues is the the fake news, I would say. It's like they don't know how to fact check, and then we don't know what information is true or not. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Colin Chu. I am a youth commissioner on the San Mateo County Youth Commission. I want to start off by just giving huge thanks to Assemblymember Berman and the entire team for having us today. So just to tell you a little bit more about myself, I am a rising senior at the Nueva School. I care a lot about the environment as well as other youth advocacy issues, both in the Bay Area but also nationally as well. To answer the first part of the question about how I got inspired to get involved in my community, when I was 5, my father passed away from liver cancer due to hepatitis B. And I was really honored to be involved in advocating for a bill a couple of years ago called Assembly Bill 789, which was led in part by Assemblymember Evan Lowe, and that required primary health clinics in the state to test adult patients voluntarily for hepatitis B. So that was really meaningful to me personally and has also had a profound impact on health equity in the state as a whole. And then to kind of transition to the second part of the question, more recently I've found a lot of meaning in advocacy for other issues, but through policy, which I learned from at a young age. So specifically, we live in the Bay Area, which is an incredibly diverse place, but also has a really diverse ecosystem and environment. And it has been incredibly saddening to see a lot of the effects that pollution and climate degradation as a whole has had on our environment. So I think the biggest issue that I have seen has affected my life and so many other youth has been climate change and has been environmental degradation. It's also something that I think all of us can make small changes to address, and is why I'm so passionate about it. Thank you.
I can jump in. First of all, I just want to give a very big thank you to all of the youth who have showed up here today. I think it's really amazing, and like if you're excited to or eager to get kind of participate in your community, attending events like this is a great first step. So just to kind of introduce myself, my name is Amani, and I'm the chair of the San Mateo County Youth Commission. My journey kind of with civic engagement started back in my freshman year of high school. There I interned with Supervisor Noelia Corzo. So I worked with her in her campaign. And at that time, our Board of Supervisors was all male. So if Supervisor Corzo hadn't gotten elected, even though our county is over 50% women, our representatives would have been all male. So working with her and kind of really having deep discussions with her, I learned not only the importance of representation for women, but also representation for youth, and how important it is that since we hold such a large majority of the percentage of the population, it's so important that we get our voice out there and we really advocate for ourselves. And then to answer the second part of the question about the most pressing issue that youth face today, kind of going hand in hand, I think it's political apathy. So in preparation for this event, I ran a little survey with my friends, and I asked them, like, how many of you guys can name all of the Kardashians? And all of my friends were able to, like, list them all. And then I was like, okay, like, how many of you guys can list our congressman? How many of you guys can list our senator? And none of my friends knew. And I think that's something that's not only present with my friend group, but probably the larger high school community. And one day we're going to inherit a world that we refuse to participate in. One day we're going to face climate change and we're going to have to deal with it. One day we're going to have to deal with reproductive issues. And if we create a feeling of political apathy now, then we're never going to be able to advocate for a greater change. So, yeah.
Hi, Hi everyone, my name is Maddie Park. I am a high school junior at Castellia School and the current Palo Alto Youth Council president. I also want to echo Amani's sentiment on thanking you all for being here today, whether you are a young person in the community or somebody that works really closely with young people. I think for me, the inspiration to become involved in the community, I think really just stemmed from how I was raised, honestly. I was taught to really value helping others and putting others' needs over my own. So even in elementary school, I wanted to, organize toy drives, holiday toy drives to raise money and toys for children who couldn't afford toys for the holidays or who didn't, have the means to get them. And I think that that interest in volunteer work and community service truly just expanded. And in middle school and high school, I really got to participate in these different avenues, whether that was working with one of my good friends to crochet stuffed animals and then donate the proceeds to the Ronald McDonald House, or joining a club, the Body Positivity Club, which ultimately got me really interested in mental health advocacy, and that's what led me to join the Palo Alto Youth Council in freshman year. In terms of the most pressing issue I believe youth face today, I would say that's mental health challenges. Actually, the Palo Alto Youth Council did a census a couple years back, and we found some really astonishing statistics. Actually, 68% of Palo Alto youth, this was a survey of roughly, I would say 250 or so Palo Alto youth, didn't know about Palo Alto mental health resources. Less than a third of Palo Alto teens are actually utilizing mental health resources, even though 50% say that they are struggling with mental health. And what I thought was even more astonishing was the fact that 40% of these teens started struggling since they were in 6th grade. So I think that this is an issue that we really need to address, particularly in this community. Thank you.
Well, such important issues that each of you raised. Before I ask a question, I was remiss in not giving a big shout out and saying thank you to all the organizations that have tabled here today. So thank you to everybody who took time out of your Saturday afternoon to come and table. Make sure that you go check them out. Hopefully you did before, and if not, make sure to do it after the town hall. And then I also really want to give a huge thanks to the city of Palo Alto for allowing us to use their city council chambers. Like I mentioned, I served on the city council for 4 years, so I've got a lot of fond and some not so fond memories of very late nights here in the council chambers, being fed by pizza and chocolate, which is obviously the fuel that you need for good decision making in our democracy. One thing I just want a little shameless plug in regards to something Priscilla mentioned around media literacy. And making sure that young people have the skills that they need, the critical thinking skills, the analytical thinking skills, the sort of skepticism that they need when they're being inundated with information, for hours a day on their phone with no vetting, right? A lot of us, when we grew up, there were newspapers and news on the TV, and there were certain journalistic ethics that everyone kind of abided by. That helped filter a lot of that misinformation and disinformation and fake news before it got to us, the public. But that doesn't exist anymore today. And so I actually introduced a bill a couple of years ago to require that we integrate media literacy into K through 12 education in California. And we're currently going through the process of doing that to make sure that every K through 12 student in California, obviously different lessons and different strategies for different ages, but that everybody grow up to be more critical consumers of all of this online content that they're being inundated with. And people would ask me, what about adults? And I'd say, I wish I could force adults to go back to school, but I can't. So the hope is that the youth will then teach up. Right? Will then teach their parents and their uncles and aunts and grandparents about different techniques to go and check whether or not data or information is correct, and think to yourself, why is somebody posting this? What are they trying to accomplish? And how should I be a little more skeptical in how I view the content? So, such all important issues that were raised. So my question for the panel is, what barriers do you think exist in youth participation in government, in elections, and how can me and other policymakers that are here in the room engage more with youth perspectives?
Okay, I can start with that.
Yeah.
I think that there is a technical barrier. Like everyone knows, you need to be 18 to actually vote. However, I think that we have a systemic barrier going on. Being part of like community college and education in general, I believe that we should have a system, not a system, but politics should be mandatory, should be like part of the curriculum, should be part of the culture of higher education, because everything that we learn, the majority of the things that we learn is from school. We spend a big chunk of our lives there in a classroom and everything. And I also think that this type of change should come from, not just from staff, but also like faculty. They need to work together to make a curriculum and make this part of the culture. I don't have authority to talk about this bill, but I know that there is a bill that was introduced, civic engagement, voter empowerment, that require, I know that the Student Center for California Community College back up that bill and said that all community colleges should have a civic plan. And I think that it's, like I said, it's systemic. I think that needs to start with our education. Faculty and staff should work together to address these issues and educate like students. That way they're going to be like knowledgeable citizens, and they're going to make they're going to vote, but they're going to know why they're making that decision and not just casting their vote. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I'd also like to add that I think a lot of youth perceive these issues that are being debated in government or being debated in elections as ones that aren't affecting us. And so I think that policymakers can sort of engage with, civic engagement organizations on campus to really show youth or young people how these issues are affecting them. And I'll give a really quick example. So for me, I'm really passionate about Asian American studies, and that's an academic interest that I really want to continue pursuing in college or just later in my life. And actually, I was touring some colleges this summer, and I found that at a prominent university in Chicago, that there wasn't an Asian American Studies department anymore, even though I knew that there had been one before. And in fact, that professor had been actually hidden away into the School of Education. And that, really made me think about how there's been this kind of big de-emphasis on DEIJ sort of on the federal level. And I never thought about it as impacting me, but, here I was touring these schools trying to, find a place where I could truly pursue something that I was academically interested in. And I couldn't find it in this school. And I think that was, saddening and also really shocking to me.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I think similar to what everyone else said, I think one of the main barriers to youth participation in government and elections is often that youth voices are undervalued or dismissed, and that's because a lot of times representatives don't pay attention to youth because we don't vote yet. We don't pay taxes. So they don't see us as a serious group of people that they need to necessarily cater to. But this kind of creates a cycle where youth are left out of important conversations that really impact their future. Because a lot of times, like, representatives are focused on the next year, like what are we going to do this year? But I know most of us are not that far off from 18. So I'm turning 18 this year, and I'm sure a lot of other people here are too. So it's closer than we think, and I think it's up to our representatives to kind of create spaces where youth voices are welcomed, they're very much included. And what's one of the main places where youth are today? I think TikTok and social media is kind of like, I don't know, for at least for my friend group, and I was like asking everyone, we spend a lot more time on TikTok than we do maybe like researching news and stuff, and I think officials need to meet youth where they're at, whether that's almost like informative TikTok videos or fixing some of that media literacy. I think that'll help youth feel that that policy and action is not that far off, that it's something that they can interact and participate with.
I'll echo what everyone else said. I think one of the biggest issues today with engaging youth in many of our processes around the government and elections is civic literacy and understanding, for example, the process of a bill and how it goes through the state assembly, or even at the local level in these town hall meetings, how youth can participate just by speaking up and raising their hand. I think there are so many excellent ways that youth can get involved, but oftentimes youth are not equipped with the resources in their communities to understand what is best for them, how they can get involved, and also, that many of these spaces are meant to be intergenerational, and that there are spaces and resources for youth, but not enough youth who are aware of them. Similar to what we talked about just in the previous question about how we can engage youth with mental health and mental health resources. I think it's a very similar issue where we just need to ensure that youth are equipped with that knowledge and know the processes of a bill, of our meetings, and then they know that they can share their story and get involved.
Your stories have all been so inspiring, and the actions you've taken to make our community better, it's just been so amazing to hear, especially as a fellow youth. So for the next question, what advice would you give to young people who want to make a difference in the community but aren't sure where to start?
Yeah, I think that you don't need to start big. You can start small. Like, when I started, it was with the Associate Student Government, and then after I joined the Associate Student Government, which you don't have to join to be part of these meetings, I started going to the Board of Trustees meeting, and I started to being more knowledgeable and understanding what was going on in my district, community college district. I would say know your representatives, know your local, your local representatives. Be part of those meetings, just to actually start to understand what's going on. At first, it sounds like complicated, but with time, like, you ended up understanding. But yeah, you can start in your college council too. It's something that I went, and I think that it helped me a lot to understand the issues and be more engaged and interested in learning more.
If I could go back 10 years, I think one of the biggest things I would tell myself is to not be afraid to share your personal story. No one can debate you or argue with you or tell you that your story isn't true or doesn't matter. You are in control of it, and you know yourself best. From meetings with politicians and lawmakers, one of the things that I've learned is that a lot of the time these people are meeting with lobbyists from corporations, are meeting from adults from companies or other organizations, in that youth are often excluded from the room. So when youth show up, they're often listened to with so much more engagement, so much more empathy. And so to each of you youth in the room, I would say kind of think about a personal story, think about something, whether it's a challenge, a struggle, or even a success that you've had in the recent past, and use that to your power and affect change in that area.
I think it's an amazing point, Colin, and I also wanted to add that it's really easy actually to start on the local level, whether that's going to public comment at a city council meeting or participating in your local youth council. Shameless plug, our applications are actually due tomorrow, so if you live or go to school in Palo Alto, I highly encourage you to apply. But regardless, I think the local level is an amazing way just to get to know your local officials, as both of you have said. And really just kind of start I guess, enacting change at a smaller level. For me, when I joined the youth council in freshman year, that was really a way for me to learn about all these other opportunities regarding mental health advocacy. For example, I started working with former Mayor Stone on his youth well-being and mental health task force, and I also had the chance to work with a committee of really motivated students to plan this citywide mental health summit that we actually held last summer, I believe, and we had the amazing opportunity to go and present at the National Service Learning Conference this past year. So I think that, engaging with people, whether it's peers or local officials at the local level, is truly just a great way to get started.
Yeah, just to kind of add on to what everyone else is saying, I think like one of the biggest challenges that I see, and I see this all the time in the Youth Commission, is that we tend to work in isolation. So, someone has an idea of proposing a bill, or another person wants to kind of institute a program, and they almost feel like they want to start from scratch. But the truth is that we have so many amazing resources and different groups and communities just to hear based on our location, like where we are in the Bay Area, like just in this room, we have so many amazing organizations. We have so many different councils and groups of youth doing really impactful things. And I think that if you want to start making a change, I would say start by finding like-minded people. So for me, that meant joining the Youth Commission, because when I joined the Youth Commission, I was able to meet other people, meet other groups, and collaborate with them to make a more meaningful change. And one of the things that we've been emphasizing this year too is collaborating with different groups in different schools. Like almost every school has like an environmental club. Every city has a youth council. There's teen action boards. There's youth advisory boards. There's all of these different types of things. And I think if all of the youth start communicating and networking with each other, the change we make can be a lot more impactful rather than working in isolation.
Well, give it up for the youth panelists, everybody. And they're not off the hook yet, because now we're going to start with audience Q&A. But before I do, I just want to say I learned something that's kind of causing me to reluctantly second-guess one of my policies. I don't love social media. I don't love it. I'm not on TikTok. Not on X. And I reluctantly post to Facebook and Instagram, and Blue Sky every so often. But the point was made that, to meet youth where they are, you got to be on the social media platforms. And so I appreciate that. I'm going to kind of, ponder that a little bit more in terms of kind of where I maybe get a little more engaged. I also want to say, because multiple panelists mentioned it, when youth show up, adults shut up. And I really felt that when I was on the city council. And we'd have a lot of debates about a lot of things, and we'd have a lot of members of the public come and speak right there on lots of different issues. And sometimes our mind would wander onto what the next issue is, or what we're planning to say next. But when a young person shows up, it's so unique, it's so abnormal, that everybody really shuts up and listens. And so to all the young people out there, believe that. When you show up to articulate your concerns or your beliefs or your positions on things, it really cuts through a lot of the noise to us elected officials. And so don't hesitate to use that power that you have when it's something that you're passionate about. Okay, we're going to go to Q&A. I have no idea how we're doing Q&A. So why don't we say, just a reminder for everyone in the room, this is a youth town hall. So I look forward to hearing from the youth about the questions that they have. Why don't we just say that anybody who has a question, if you want to come up to the front here and ask your question, please do. You can direct it to any of us, or you can just direct it to all of us, whatever you prefer. Go ahead.
Testing. Can you guys hear me? All right, sounds good. So, hi, my name is Iris Blanchette. I'm the co-director of Vote 16 Palo Alto, which is a citywide organization working to lower the voting age in Palo Alto to 16 for municipal elections via a ballot initiative on the 2026 ballot. As you may know, Assemblymember Mark Berman, the state of California gives broad authority to charter cities like Palo Alto to decide how they run their local elections. But it does not extend the same opportunity to general law cities, even though they make up the vast majority of California's municipalities. Research and experience from other cities do show that lowering the voting age can increase civic engagement and strengthen local democracy, which I think everyone on this panel says that they want to achieve. And we in Vote 16 Palo Alto believe that communities should have the choice to pursue it if they wish. So my question for you, Assembly Member, is would you support legislation that makes it easier for general law cities to lower the voting age in their municipalities if their communities want it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's a super righteous issue. It's something that I know I've voted on bills in this space in the past to let, when other cities have wanted to lower the voting age. I think it makes all the sense in the world, especially when it comes to our school boards, who are enacting policies that impact our students. I know some of our school board members who are here might disagree with me, but I'll hear about that later. I think if a community wants to do that, they should be allowed to. Yeah. Come on up.
What are some of the bills that you've passed?
What are some of the bills that I've passed? What are some of the bills one bill that I passed was to make it easier for people to vote. So during the pandemic, which I think you might have been too young to remember, it was dangerous. Go ahead.
I remember.
You remember. Should have seen that coming. It was dangerous for people to participate in their democracy. It was dangerous for people to go to a voting booth to vote. And so I wanted to make it as easy as possible for everybody to be able to get their ballot in the safety of their home, to still be able to participate in their democracy, because you shouldn't risk your life to participate in your democracy. So that was probably one of the most high-profile bills that I've passed, was to have California be a universal vote-by-mail state. But I've done a lot of other things in education. But remind me what grade you're in.
I'm in 5th grade.
5th grade. I have not done anything. Well, I guess I have. I've passed some bills I mentioned one earlier around media literacy and making sure that you, even in 5th grade, get to learn about media literacy and be able to be more skeptical about some of the stuff that you see. And so even starting as young as kindergarten, it's important that we have a lot of policies that give you the skills that you need and the strength that you need to be able to succeed in this crazy digitally driven society. That was probably a lot deeper than I should have gone with you. But if you have any ideas, I hope you'll let me know. And I know your parents will make sure that I do.
I will.
Good.
Hi, I'm Nix, and I just graduated Gun High School. I'm 18.
Congrats.
And I found that mental health is definitely one of the biggest barriers that I've faced when it comes to engaging in politics. I only attended Gun High School officially from 9th grade to halfway through 10th grade. I was hospitalized after that under a 5150.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm a bit nervous.
You're doing great.
I found that afterwards I was placed in an alternative mental health program through PAUSD that was originally at Cubberley High School, but you won't find any mention of it online at all. I think that a lot of the programs you guys have been pushing, which are very admirable, have been hard to access for many students, as you can't find them on any of these alternative school programs. After that program, I went to middle college at Foothill. Even there, it's hard to find certain programs that are aimed at youth because it's a community college. I think that another important issue when it comes to youth engaging in politics is that a lot of people, individuals, don't have access to engaging in the politics because they're in hospitals like the one I was in and involuntarily held and have no voice in the outside world. My question is, have you considered finding ways to reach out to some of these alternative education programs?
It's a great question. First of all, thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for trying to make sure that young people who inevitably will go down the same path as you did, have a better experience. That's so important. And I'm the middle of 3 boys. We all grew up in Palo Alto. We all had very different experiences going to Palo Alto public schools. And that's not to say anything about the Palo Alto public schools, but just young people have different experiences as we grow up and go through life. And so I very much know about some of the different paths that you're talking about. I probably haven't done enough, so I'd love to. If you'll grab a card, if my district director or someone from my staff will get a card from Kevin and reach out, and I'd love to hear more about how I, as the assembly member, can help. And if there are things that are more local, we can connect you with school board members and figure out how we can make that better. I really appreciate you, bringing those important points up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I know we chatted earlier. I want to make sure that the young people in the room get a chance to ask questions, and then if there's any time afterwards, then we'll go to non-young people in the room, or we can chat one-on-one afterwards. But yeah, I want to let some of the young folks get a chance to ask questions at the Youth Town Hall. Go ahead.
Hello, my name's Leela. I'm a college student. I had a question sort of for the panel. Oftentimes, when I try to participate in politics, I struggle to figure out whether I should focus on local, state, federal, global issues. There's just so much, especially on social media and news sites. It often feels like federal and global issues get much more coverage than local issues. And I'm not sure where I should be focusing, where I should make my impact, especially because some actions have much more serious consequences on my life. And it's like, what do I choose? How do I pick between all of it? Where can I make the most impact?
Yeah, I can start by answering that. In my opinion, I think more of us need to really focus on local policies. From my research and just kind of experience, I've noticed that, obviously federal news is something that we all understand to an extent, but I think it doesn't affect us as directly as local policies do. So a couple of years ago, I started a club at my school called Policy in Action, and that one was specifically towards local policies because we have a political science club, and we've had some of those clubs, but after attending those meetings, I felt like they really only talked about federal and even state, which I think obviously is very, very important, but I think it's starting with our local politics is important because A, it's easier to engage with. It's hard to kind of engage with politics that's far higher up. And B, I think we can make more of an impact. All of us, I think, who've shared our experiences, it's been at a very local level, and we felt that our contributions have been very meaningful. Like Assemblyman was talking about how he got ideas from interns. So I think if we start at the local level, we can really feel some of those impacts.
Thank you for your question. I'll echo Amani's sentiment. I've also done a lot of national legislation lobbying, and I guess I'll briefly share. One of the biggest takeaways that I've had is that there are many pieces of national legislation that do have a very narrow impact on our local communities. So, for example, for the past 2 years, I've been a part of the leadership team for the U.S. Youth Action Council for the United Nations Ocean Decade. And we went to D.C. Last year where we lobbied for 5 different national environmental bills. And before President Biden left office, he did sign one of them into law, and that basically protected a lot of the coastline here locally in the Bay Area and across California as well as other states. So I think there definitely are opportunities for making a difference in our local community if you are interested in policy advocacy at the national level. I also think that there are ways to advocate for national legislation besides just pure policies. So, this past year we returned to DC, but instead spoke with lawmakers about how we can get funding back for a lot of the agencies that have been defunded by the current administration. So I think there are a wide array of opportunities. Starting at the local level is certainly one of the best ways that you can get involved, but there are also ways that you can make an impact locally through federal legislation.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Assemblymember Berman and youth panels. My name is Ying Hong. So I have resided in California for 7 years, but I am an undocumented immigrant. 5 years ago, I became a victim of domestic violence and sexual assault. And because this kind of case, it takes really long time to get the visa approved. So that's why I'm still undocumented. And life has been very difficult for me. And then I've been trying so hard. Sometimes I even work 70 hours of at work to, to make it survive. And then I found another opportunity to go to community college to get more education, because it's a common sense for people to know that education can change things. But the thing is that because my legal status is undocumented, and when I went to Foothill College, I had to pay almost 10 times more than the local students. What does that mean? It means that in the fall, I registered for 5 classes, and I had to pay $6,079 for 5 classes. Well, for local students, they only need to pay $714. And then for us, because our legal status is limited, how can we, our job opportunities are also limited. How can we make a living here? It's impossible. And so I struggled a lot to, voice, because, I don't know how many undocumented immigrants here today. I don't know how many undocumented immigrants in this country. If I don't stand up today to voice myself, there's probably gonna be no one voice for myself. And I wanted to make my voice heard. It has been very difficult. And you guys mentioned that there's a lot of resource for, in community colleges, for people out there, but I don't really feel that much resource, like being right in my hand. Luckily, this fall quarter, when I noticed that this big payment for my course, I cried. And, I went to the dean of Foothill College, and I found someone who was really doing their jobs. And then, because usually this kind of documents, you submit your application to Foothill College or whatever college, they will say, oh, you don't have this document, you don't have that document, so you're not qualified for resident fee. Usually maybe I feel like maybe they're just using computer to categorize if you qualify for this and that. And then job is done and they don't care. But then I found that it's not possible. And then when I went to different courses in Foothill College, I was taught that the social imagination is that being able to connect your personal troubles to a bigger concept of, the public issues. So I think this is not because I'm an undocumented immigrant that I deserve to work 70 hours per week to just make a fair opportunity to get education. And then so my question here today is that I finally made my voice heard to the Foothill College, and then they made an exception, and they say, okay, we can give you an exception and we can reclassify you. And then I wonder, there's even more undocumented immigrants here in this country. How are they making their voice heard? How are they just getting the fair opportunity to get to education? And then how can we make this a better community?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, first off, for your bravery in sharing your story and sharing your experiences. And I've got a lot of thoughts. I want to make sure that you get my district director's business card because before I was a city council member, I was a lawyer. And I worked and helped some women utilize who were undocumented utilizing a program called VAWA, the Violence Against Women Act, to help them get legal status. And if nobody's mentioned that to you, I want to make sure that that's not my level of government, but we can connect you with the right people to make sure that you know what your options are. I just want to say your story also is a perfect example of why California is a sanctuary state. Because it's so important for every resident of California, regardless of your legal status, to feel comfortable reaching out to law enforcement when you've been the victim of a crime. And that's something that makes everybody safer, not just the victim, regardless of their immigration status. But if there's somebody that commits a crime and they know that they can do that without the victim speaking up, they're going to do it over and over and over again, whether it's to people who have legal status or don't. And so, thank you for speaking up. I think there's a lot more that we can do. I don't know the specifics in terms of the community college tuition policies, but we can definitely help connect you with folks, to see what we can do, whether or not to make sure that you can access the resident rates, policies that we can change to make sure that doesn't happen in the future. I'm not familiar enough with what barriers there are to doing that, but would love to kind of have a longer conversation about your experience and what we can do, in particular at the state level, or how we can connect you to different levels of government.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I have something to add, actually. I'm a volunteer for CORA, which is Communities Overcoming Relationship Abuse, and they offer free legal counseling and therapy for victims of domestic abuse and sexual violence. If you need more information on CORA or organizations similar to that, I am happy to talk to you about that. It's a well-known organization in the Bay Area that's helped with San Mateo County's District Attorney's Office victims of domestic abuse, victims of crime in that category. So I'm happy to talk to you more about that. Your story is so strong and powerful, and thank you so much for sharing it today.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. I represent West Valley College. I'm the president there. I have a question for the former mission president. We met with the current mission president and student trustee last Monday, and they told us about how wonderful your government was. I was wondering what did you just discover in student government? What was the most meaningful and worthwhile initiatives or opportunities that you discovered that can really make a difference for your community?
Yes, thank you. I'm really happy to hear that.
Yeah, they really
thank you. So let me see if I understand your question. You are asking what initiatives and things that we did?
Yeah, or opportunities you discovered that student government can be a part of.
Oh, yes.
Great.
So being part of the student government opened a lot of doors for me. I was able to, just echoing what you said, we were able to lobby a lot. We went to the state capitol, we went to also national level. We went to Washington, D.C. with a program at school. I had the opportunity. I think that one of the biggest opportunities that I had was actually to build the knowledge in student government and government in general. Being the ASG president, and not just because I'm the ASG president, because everyone in the student government can do this. I was able to write resolutions because I was aware of what's going on in my community. I wrote 2 resolutions to the Student Senate for California Community College, and I highly encourage your government to do the same. Just see an issue and be part of that, because they vote for the resolution. If the resolution passes, they take as If the resolution passed in the student government, the Student Senate for California Community College, it means that they will advocate in state level, national level. They would do their best. And luckily, my 2 resolutions passed. And yeah, so I would say that those are the main opportunities, more like to learn about government and initiatives that we took. If you're asking that, I just don't want to miss. I don't know if you're asking. We had, I think that our 1 year there was really marked by community service. We did a lot of community service to serve underrepresented communities, older students, undocumented students, student homeless. We also did, we addressed those issues. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I answer your question?
Incredible.
Assemblymember Berman. First off, I just want to say thank you. It's rare that we get assembly members and senators to come down to the Bay Area. Usually we have to go to Sacramento, go to the office, wait in that long, hour-long line until we finally get an answer from them. So thank you. And I know you're big on education, and I just wanted to ask, around April, an Assembly Bill AB 1468 was introduced, and it saw curriculum building for ethnic studies courses in high schools around California. And an issue brought up with the bill was how it would limit a teacher's ability to educate students on ethnic studies that wasn't related with the curriculum. So ethnic studies, like mine, I'm the middle of the Middle Eastern community, and what I noticed was that the bill left out studies related to Middle Eastern, North African communities, and it seemed like that was done on purpose. So I wanted to ask, what was your stance on this bill? Do you believe that strict curriculum is necessary for studies based on identity, especially at a time when identity is so fluid?
It's a great question. Thank you for the question. And ethnic studies has been probably one of the more challenging issues that we've been discussing in the legislature for 5 or 6 years now. And so I was happy to support 4 or 5 years ago, my colleague Assemblymember Medina had a bill to require that ethnic studies be a graduation requirement in high school. And myself and every member of the Legislative Jewish Caucus supported that bill. But the conversations that we had to do, and the conversations that my colleagues, Assemblymember Medina, and now Secretary of State Weber, and other colleagues that had a long history in ethnic studies, was around what they called the 4 core groups. And that was ethnic studies as it relates to communities in California, having to do with Native American community, African American community, Latino, Latinx community, and the API community. And so we all supported that bill to have ethnic studies based on what we were told at that time be integrated into our schools. But unfortunately, what we've seen is that there are some organizations that have hijacked that opportunity to teach things in our schools that are very inaccurate in terms of the factual and historic accuracy of it. And are using it, and teachers, frankly, who don't have the training that they need to be able to teach ethnic studies. And some of those teachers that are saying, gosh, I wish I had more guardrails around what I'm supposed to teach. Because I taught something that I didn't realize was inappropriate. I taught something that I didn't realize was ahistoric. And so a lot of folks from across California and a lot of students from across California have expressed concerns with some of the ethnic studies curriculum that is being used in their schools. And that is something that we've been trying to address. Now, I think the bill that you were referencing is no longer moving forward.
No longer on the floor.
Is no longer moving forward. But there is another effort now that's focused more specifically on anti-Semitism, bless you, and making sure that content and curriculum and lesson plans aren't being used in California's public schools that either intentionally or unintentionally teach anti-Semitic content and tropes. So it's a tough issue. I supported that original bill, but I'll tell you that knowing that that bill was going to go through a lot of iterations and edits and amendments along the way, so much so that the bill stopped moving forward, and the focus is narrowed. But I know it's a tough and complicated and issue that a lot of people are very passionate about. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Julianne, and last year I was on the City of Menlo Park's Youth Advisory Commission, and my question is, what can we do to make our voices heard? Now, I understand this panel is a great way to make your voices heard, or our voices heard, but I've gone to city council meetings, I've participated in the Youth Advisory Commission, and I've spoken about various issues. However, I feel like my voice is heard to the city council, but not to higher people in our democracy. And so my wish is that more opportunities like this can be more open and more accessible to the youth, because I feel like there's a real need for youth and to speak about every political topic, because I think that youth should bring their voices into every topic, no matter what it is.
For sure. Do y'all want to start, or you want me to start, or? I'll go. I think anytime that you see an issue that you're passionate about, show up and participate. And if it's a government meeting, they'll have public comment, and you'll have the ability to participate. Public comment at the local level, at the city council and school board level is a little more robust. A couple of minutes, I believe, that you get to speak. And even if, I take that back, even if they're not discussing an issue that you care, if they are not discussing an issue that you care about, there's public comment of a general nature that's usually, I believe, at the beginning of the meeting. And so you can even just show up and say, hey, I'm a member of this community, and this is an issue that I care about, and I want to share that with you, elected officials, and I want to share that with the public and the community who are either be at the meeting in person, or these meetings are all online and sometimes on TV also. So I think, when it comes to engaging with higher up elected officials, I'd say, for everybody here, if you know an assembly member or you know a state senator, tell them every year to have a youth town hall. So that the youth in their community get the opportunity to show up and have their voices be heard. I'd say never hesitate to reach out to my office. And this goes for everybody here. If you don't meet with me, and instead you meet with my staff, they're the important ones anyways. They're the ones who are often very focused on a specific number of issues and very knowledgeable about a specific number of issues. And then I assure you that they report to me about how those meetings and conversations go. So I would just say, don't be shy, but also put the responsibility on the elected officials to create opportunities for you to participate and for you to speak. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Hi, my name is Meenakshi, and I'm 12 years old, and I'm a 7th grader at Ellen Fletcher Middle School. I believe that all students have the right to feel safe at school, like it says in the California Constitution. But a PE teacher who has already been hired at my school that has past allegations, and that makes us, especially girls and vulnerable students, feel uncomfortable and unsafe. That doesn't feel like equal treatment. My question is, will the board make a rule that puts teachers under investigation in non-teaching roles so students can be safe and treated fairly while everything is being looked into?
Thank you for the question, and I'm not familiar with this issue, but I think you should absolutely raise that with the Palo Alto Unified School Board, it sounds like a very troubling situation, and I'm sure they are taking it as seriously as they possibly can. But I think it's important that they understand how the students feel about what's happening. So I would really encourage you to share that with them. Yeah. Thank you. I'm sorry that's happening.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Zareen. I'm 10 years old and I'm in 5th grade. My question is, how do you plan on making school less stressful and less of a burden for all students and all ages?
Thank you for the question. I remember vividly how stressful school can be, and I think it's only gotten harder in the 25 years since I've been in school. I've had a couple of bills that have been focused on youth mental health and youth well-being. And I've said to organizations in the community that some of those bills, one, for example, created gave the funding necessary to create a youth mental health and suicide prevention training for all middle school and high school students and teachers and administrators. So not quite fifth grade, not quite elementary school. That every student and teacher and administrator in California could get access to, so that they had the training that they felt they needed to be able to see when a friend or a classmate or a student was struggling. And that they'd feel like they had the skills and the training that they needed to get involved and to identify the signs and then to be able to help either their classmate and friend or their student. But I've told groups, if you have a good idea around youth mental health, every year I'll introduce a bill in the youth mental health space. I've also to my friend who was talking about 5150 holds, I had a bill last year around not youth, but sometimes right when people turn 18, their parents lose the ability to be involved in their care. And that can be a very scary thing. And so I had a bill last year to help make sure that parents of young adults have the ability to know how they can help their family, their kids, when they're going through youth mental health struggles. So such an important issue, such a challenge in Palo Alto. I know it has been for decades. And if you have any ideas, I hope you'll let me know. Because just like I've said to NAMI and all the different organizations out there, if you've got a good idea, every year I'll introduce a bill on it every year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, if I could just add something super quickly. This has actually been one of the focus points of the Palo Alto Youth Council, and in past years and hopefully going forward, we actually do have events that try to alleviate stress, particularly around school. For example, last year we had an event called the Final Study Grand Slam, which was a multi-day event where students could just come in and study for their finals. We had food, we had therapy dogs, we had fun activities, and so I highly encourage you to come this year as well, and also bring your friends.
Okay. All right, thank you. Go ahead. I think we're gonna cut the line off at where it is right now, and I'm gonna answer very quick. Well, I'll answer very quickly because I know we're over time, and I forgot to mention, but I have a 5-week-old baby at home. So if I don't get home, my wife will divorce me.
Yeah. My name is Santiago. I'm a 10th grader at Menlo Atherton. And this council was talking a lot about political apathy in youth and also about youth mental health. And a common trope is that you turn 18, you graduate high school, and you're kind of flung into adulthood. But what are some plans to kind of make these programs designed for youth and for youth transitioning into adulthood more available, and especially more available to underrepresented communities?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can jump in. Specifically in the San Mateo County Youth Commission, I'm part of the Civic Engagement Subcommittee, so this is kind of like our primary thing that we're kind of always trying to grapple with, is that how can we really like combat the political apathy at the genesis rather than like when it evolves and when people turn older. And so one of the projects that we're working on is actually youth voter pamphlets for younger kids in elementary school. So we developed them last year, and we kind of distributed it to various elementary schools, and it made voting seem kind of very fun and engaging rather than something scary. And we had a lot of positive feedback from younger children. So I think more initiatives like that, where we kind of bring more exposure to government systems at a young age, would be very beneficial.
Thank you.
I'm not young people, but a grandma of young people. Okay. Yeah, I'm very concerned. Hello, Assemblyman Mark Berman. Thank you so much for holding this town hall meeting focused on the issue, young issue. My name is Julia, and I'm deeply concerned about the health and the safety and education of our young generation. So first, many youth in the U.S. are being endangered by fentanyl. so highly toxic substances trafficked from abroad.
Mm-hmm.
And education and awareness programs are urgently needed to protect our children and prevent tragedies. Second, with discussion with young education, we believe it is important to also teach values, ethics, human rights, and also, globally, there are reports of the forced organ harvesting. Maybe you heard about that, right, in China, which is a grave human rights violation. And also, raising awareness helps young people develop empathy, critical thinking, and also more courage.
Thank you.
Let
me know the question.
Okay. Finally, art and culture play a vital role in mental health and hope. And performances, maybe you think, you know that like singing, inspire young, through, they think about the stories of the morality and resilience, and also cultural heritage.
Thank you. Go ahead and wrap up.
Okay.
We've got a couple of youth that want to ask some questions.
Okay.
So if you could wrap up in 10 seconds,
so
that'd
much.
be great.
Also, I just mentioned all of this. So we should pay attention to all of the issues happening now. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shreya Nayak, and I'm on the City of Mountain View Youth Advisory Committee. Over the past few years, I've engaged in several ways. I've gone to city council meetings, I've joined the Youth Advisory Committee, and I've even made films on the C-SPAN Film Festival about climate change and other issues that I care about. Specifically on climate change, I've seen a lot of legislation where they present goals and they present ideals for the future, and they will make a plan. But how do you ensure that the legislature, especially the state legislature, which is a little bit closer to us, how will you ensure that those plans actually get carried out?
Yeah, it's a great question. So and you're absolutely right. A lot of times we'll say, hey, we want to accomplish X by 2040, right? Or 2030. We want to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 60% of 1990 levels by 2030 or something like that. And then and the hope is that when you set that goal, when you as a state, when the fourth largest economy in the world, California, says we're going to accomplish something, we will then back that up with the policies and the funding necessary and the ideas to accomplish those goals. Because if we don't, it's very embarrassing. It's very embarrassing for the state. It's very, very embarrassing for the elected officials. But it's important that we then actually, as they say, put our money where our mouths are and make sure that we fund the programs necessary, whether that's rebates for electric vehicles or expanding the network of EV chargers or our really world-leading cap-and-trade program that caps the amount of pollution and the greenhouse gas emissions that different industries can emit. So sometimes you have to have a little faith when you set that goal. And sometimes you don't know. Sometimes the technology, when you set the goal, the technology doesn't even exist yet to accomplish that goal. I had a bill a couple of years ago, probably the hardest bill that I've run in my 9 years, to ban the sale of gas-powered leaf blowers and lawnmowers and other what's called small off-road engines, equipment that's very heavily polluting for our environment. But we had to set a date of 2024 for some of the equipment and 2028 for some of the other equipment, because we knew that the markets and the industry weren't even there yet with the clean alternatives. But then it takes you. It takes you and your friends and your peers and your classmates to follow all that stuff and keep us accountable. and make sure, because we do reports every couple of years, and we say, hey, we're, this close to accomplishing the goal, or here's the progress that we've made, or we've fallen behind on the progress that we need to make. And then it's the public. You need to come and raise a ruckus and make sure that we know that you're unhappy with us. So it takes all of us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, last question. It's been fantastic.
Yeah. Hi. I just wanted to know, a lot of youth around my age, they don't a lot of youth care about the environment, but a lot of youth have no care about littering. They throw trash wherever they want. What are you doing? Have you passed any laws? And this is for all are you involved in any initiatives that help convince youth to take care of our environment? Because eventually we're gonna be the adults. We're gonna be the ones who are making the decisions about about the environment and protecting our green areas and landscapes. So what are any initiatives any of you are involved in?
Yeah, so I'm gonna kick it to the panel in a second, but I'll just quickly say, a lot of people come to me and they say, why are our highways so dirty? Why are our roadways so dirty? And you know what I tell them? Because people suck. Because people suck, and they throw things out the window without a care. And you don't see that in other countries. And we have fines, and we've actually significantly increased the funding statewide for cleaning up our highways. Governor Newsom, this is like a passion project of his, and he loves to get out there with his gloves and clean stuff up. But the more we, but personally, I haven't seen the improvement that we need to make. So I hope that our panelists have a lot of great ideas on how we can solve this problem. Great question.
Yeah, I can kick us off. I had the exact same question as you towards the end of middle school. And actually one of the first things that I did when I noticed a lot of these issues around pollution and waste, especially in my school community, is I took a moment to pause and kind of look at the broader community and kind of think about the issue holistically. So since then, I've been working with my school to basically deliver all of the food waste, or a lot of the food waste that we have that goes unused, that doesn't even touch the mouths of students, and we deliver them to homeless shelters and food banks that are in need, that are just blocks away from the school, that could really use that waste. So we started during COVID and have expanded since then. We're now in our 4th year. So that's one idea, and I think it just kind of goes to show that there are a lot of ways to find solutions to intersectional issues. Food waste and homelessness aren't often talked about hand in hand, but when you kind of pair those in the setting of education, it can really make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Give it up for our panelists again. And I want to quickly recognize and thank. We've got Sergeants Gonzalez and Pena from the Capitol Sergeant's Office who are here today, and also California Highway Patrol Officer Rios was here, and just making sure that everybody, that we can conduct these really important events in respectful and informative ways. So thank you, everybody. I know there's still a bunch of folks in the back if people want to have questions for the folks who came to table about their organizations or agencies. But it's really thank you, everybody, for participating and showing up, and never hesitate to reach out if you have an issue that you're passionate about that you think I should know about. Thanks. Oh, wait a second. I take that back. I totally stole Zoe's clothes. So Zoe, I'm going to shut my mouth.
Okay, I know you all want us to wrap up, and we're going a little bit over time, but here are just some really short takeaways from the panel today. And yeah, so today you heard that youth are the center for change, and that is completely true. You can make a difference from something that starts out small and grow that into something bigger. And oftentimes work is better done in community with others that share your same vision. And there's no meaning for difference if you're doing that in isolation. Speaking to your lived experiences, because young people are so powerful and powerful enough to move communities. Additionally, to make change in our world, your experiences and creativity should never be taken for granted or stolen by AI. And my final takeaway for you today is to stay connected. So stay connected to the parks and wildlife around you with nature. Stay connected to the organizations that could be here or with other organizations that share your same visions and passions. And stay connected to the people around you who also want to create change in the world. So that could be people in this room or outside of that. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
A much better close than I gave. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Really appreciate it.